I'm Harry Corpening, president of R.J. Reynolds High School Alumni Friends Organization, and I'm happy to be here with the three living principals of R.J. Reynolds High School. It is a small club of folks. There are only 6. Number 4 was Mr. Bob Deaton. You came when I was here. I graduated in '68. You replaced John Tandy. What year did you come? 67? 66. And you retired?
91.
91. Stan Elrod followed. You were here before. I assume you were principal, or maybe not?
No, I came in '81 as the head basketball coach.
Okay.
And then, of course, when Mr. Deaton retired in '91, I became the principal.
And you left in?
2005.
And you are now principal at and opened up?
Ronald Reagan High School.
Good for you. And then Art, forgive me, I don't know a whole lot of your history, and I'm sure a lot of folks don't. You didn't come up through the Winston-Salem County school system,
No.
so what's your deal?
I was a principal at Northern Nash High School in Rocky Mount for 3 years. Prior to that, I'd been principal at West Montgomery High School for 7 years, and prior to that was a basketball coach. So I had the opportunity to come here in 2005 when Stan took over at Reagan.
You probably heard some things about Reynolds. You learned some things when you got here. How did what you hear match what you heard?
Probably exceeded expectations. Certainly, the school has a reputation across the state. Mr. Deaton and Mr. Elrod did a wonderful job and kind of laying the foundation for me to come in and sort of just take over the keys to the car and take it from there. And you know, the legacy that they left certainly is in place today.
Good deal. A little bit about for folks that haven't been to Reynolds in a long time, so that I don't ask all the questions to Art. Stan, know a lot of them. When I went to school, started at 8:30, got out at 3:05. The rule was theoretically you're not supposed to leave campus during lunch to eat. That was the rule. I'm not necessarily many people followed it, but that was the rule. We would gather either down in the cafeteria or up here at the landing. I was thinking last night, most of my memories are being with my classmates up here, waiting for us to go back into class. What's a typical day now? When does it start? When does it end? You know, what's a typical student do?
Well, I can remember when we started at 7:35. Those are the good days. And of course, there's been a lot of changes since then, and now we start at 8:50.
Now, those hours, just for folks that don't know, are dictated because we have only got X amount of buses in the county, and certain schools, certain levels of school goes at certain times. Is that the deal?
Definitely. The yellow buses determine what time you start and what time you end. That's true.
Okay. Do kids still gather up here at the landing after school or not? I don't see it, but I've only been here twice, so I don't know.
I think most of our kids will gather mostly in the front of the school, by the picnic area. That seems to be more of their gathering place. There will be some kids here before school that if their parents will drop them off by the landing, maybe after school waiting, but it's usually down in the front area by the picnic tables.
Okay, when I was there with the 3-year school, Bob, when you took over, it then briefly became a 2-year school. Then it became a 4-year school.
Right.
You said at one time you had over 2,000 students here?
When we consolidated back into the 4-year high school, we went over 2,000, which that was a 1-year deal because the seniors were allowed to stay. So,
That was 84.
Okay. When I was here, probably 90% Caucasian, maybe not, maybe even higher. When you left, Bob, what was the ratio of races?
it was about 60-40.
60-40. Did it remain the same with you, Stan?
No, the biggest change was the strong Latino population that came to Reynolds. At one time, Reynolds was the only ESL program in Forsyth County.
Okay.
And every youngster who met that criteria was bused into Reynolds High School. I can remember one time us having over 200 youngsters from 27 countries that spoke 17 different languages on this one campus. So that was a unique feature that probably a lot of people don't remember. But the white African American ratio pretty much was standard. It was the Latino population that grew so much during the latter part of my time here.
How many nationalities here now? Do you have any idea?
Probably about the same, but we just have fewer numbers. I think we've got about 125 students in our ESL program, and we still have students from 27, 28 different countries speaking a number of different languages. But it's just fewer in numbers. Some of the students have been moved to other schools, and but our black and white ratios are about the same. Not a whole lot of difference.
Okay, when I came here, very few school buses. Now there are quite a few. What percentage of the student body rides by school buses?
I don't know exactly the percentage. I would probably guess half of the students might. Is that a pretty
That
good?
sounds pretty close, yeah.
How does that, for lack of a better term, interfere with those students wanting to do things after school here? Do they have to leave then, or are there other buses later, I mean, like you wanted to be on a football team, or whatever debate team?
If they want to participate, we'll find a way to get them home. And so we do run scheduled buses after school a couple of days a week, but for the most part, if a kid wants to participate, there's a way around that.
3 years ago, graduating class, I think it was 347, 88% of those graduates went to a 2 or 4 year college, 75% went to a 4-year college or university. Numbers still hold?
Pretty much, yeah. And I think hopefully they'll even go up in years to come. So we're proud of those figures. That's pretty much remained constant, for many years.
I've heard that either a counselor or someone from the PSA meets with every single junior and says, listen, what are your plans when you finish with Reynolds High School, and do you have the finances to go on to school if that is your plan? Is that still happening?
Yeah, that happens. I'm sure that happens at a lot of the other high schools as well. But our counselors do a good job of trying to meet the needs of the kids and trying to make sure that they're successful not just here but after they leave here.
Okay, get back to that. Bob has some questions to see how times have changed. Typical year, whatever, what were most students sent to your office for disciplinary-wise, if there was a commonality to it? Was there anything either extreme one way or the other, real funny or real serious or whatever while you were here?
Well, it was a typical high school. Every once in a while we'd have confrontation between students, but for the most part it was skipping classes or that sort of thing. Very little drug activity at that time. In fact, we thought that we had more than we really did, because they had an undercover student agent that spent about 2 months with us and finally just left, so there wasn't enough to even bother with. So we didn't have the problems that these fellows have today in that respect.
Anything real funny or funny, exciting, interesting that you remember?
Well, we broke up a card game one time that was down under the building there in the catacombs. Richard Mock, who was the guidance director at that time, came up and said, you need to turn the PA off. And I said, the PA's not on. Well, we can hear you all talk. I said, you can't hear us talk. I walked down to the guidance office and listened a little bit. Got Jim Wilhelm, who was my assistant principal at that time. I said, Jim, come on, we're going downstairs. So we went down, and I went on down through the tunnel toward the boiler room, and Jim went the other way. Well, these fellows had unscrewed all the light bulbs except right under the guidance office where they had their card game going. Dark as pitch. Well, they heard Jim coming. Well, I slipped up a little ladder and stood there at the end of the corridor. And then when they saw him, they started running right straight toward me. And about 10 feet from me, I said, where are you guys going? I was scared them to death. So that was an amusing part of a day that we had.
Leslie, best I can remember, when I was here at 68, the history building wasn't, I don't believe. When did it come?
It was built about the time that you were here.
Yeah, I don't think it was been built, but it just wasn't using them.
Yeah, we were in the process of building that. When they closed Paisley as a high school and split the students between Reynolds and North Forsyth, we had to expand and built that at that time.